woman speaks about negative experiences with debate bros, men. Unfortunately, sir, you are having what the kids might call an emotional reaction to my video. Anger, frustration, embarrassment, these are all emotions. Critique on male behavior is not why the world is going to shit. Lack of critique of male behavior is why the world is so shit.
It never ceases to amaze how pathological the mindset of your average feminist modern woman is. It's not as though female leadership and dominance in society has been conceived of as a joke since time immemorial, or that women are measurably more neurotic and unstable than men are. No, the totality of the world's problems may be cast at the feet of men and male behavior and the patriarchy, according to this clearly unstable young woman. But you know what? I'll play devil's advocate here, and not in the way you think. I'll outflank you from the right. Feminism is an expression of women's anger and fear at men's collective failure. Because you'll notice women never revolted like this under patriarchy, under an authentically masculine system. And today we have public universities that teach feminism like it's a science, like it's a hard science, like biology or engineering. And this woman would probably tell you in earnest that Fox News is a fascist state-sponsored media company and that Donald Trump was on the verge of transforming America into the Fourth Reich. But the great irony of all this is that everything this woman believes, every view she propounds, is in fact the product of the Rockefeller-created, Democrat, feminist-run public school system. We live under this system of ceaseless deconstruction and endless criticism of male behavior, and things are getting worse. This is a system that socializes men in the wrong way, and this is why we've seen so much talk in the media and in the culture about men's failure to launch. Feminism does not represent some wellspring of female consciousness, female political consciousness, rising up and striking back against a tyrannical patriarchy that had just been in control for the past 2,000 years. This is, in fact, a state-sponsored and controlled reactionary movement against the public school system's degradation and improper socialization of young men. Western society's collective failure to produce successive new generations of leaders.
Exactly. It really just goes to show the fundamental misunderstanding that forced birthers have around pregnancy and biology in general. It is exactly because fetuses are leaching off the host's body that the removal is what harms them. If it didn't need the woman's body to survive, then this wouldn't be a point of conversation in the first place. If pregnancy was a simple inconvenience, then this wouldn't be a conversation in the first place, because pregnancy is a health condition, that abortion is healthcare. But abortion is not murder by any definition. Abortion is the removal from one parasitic substance from its host, and that is what kills the fetus. Inability to continue to be a leech. And then they want to call medical information dehumanizing to a fetus, as if forcing people to undergo unwanted pregnancies and births and medical trauma is not dehumanizing and oftentimes fatal. They'd be silly if they weren't so dangerous.
So ridiculous and pathological. Imagine calling pregnancy a health condition. How mentally ill do you have to be to actually say that? Oh, this video, that clip actually turned my stomach. An unborn child is not a leech. You're not going to walk into a lake, walk out. You have a leech feeding off your blood on the side of your leg, and then if you just leave it there for 9 months, it grows and grows and then falls off and becomes a human. No, an unborn child has an entirely novel DNA sequence and will grow into another identifiable person with their own face and their own personality that you can interact with after gestation. Every leftist social movement just advocates for more capitalist transhumanism in the social sphere and more handouts in the economic sphere. Anytime you encounter a woman advocating a position like this, you should ask her first, are you responsible enough to have sex? And then, do you know what consent is? Let her answer the first question first, and then just ask her the second question right after.
If only men were as worried about their hypothetical sons being, rapists and abusers as they were worried about their hypothetical daughters being whores. If you, as a parent, cannot handle the thought of your child having sex of any gender, you shouldn't be having kids. Gotta say this again, why are y'all sexualizing hypothetical infants? Either you see that there's a problem in society with the way that men treat women, and you don't want a hypothetical child to go through that, that's me giving you the benefit of the doubt, or you don't want to be around sexually liberated women who treat their sexuality the same way that men treat their sexuality. Why?
So there's a number of things that are implicit in what she said here. The first I'll point out is an apex fallacy. This is something that feminists will employ a lot of the time, where they will assume that men are just free to sleep with whoever they want and every man is having tons of sex, when in reality it's really the top echelon of men that actually gets to live this way. And for women, it is much easier for them to be sluts and sleep with a ton of guys than it is for a man to sleep with a ton of women. That is why men look up to other men who are able to get women easily. Women don't just look up to other women who sleep with tons of guys. Women look up to women who are able to secure high quality guys. Another thing that these feminists like to work off of is the assumption that there are something like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 women are abused. This isn't the case. It was based off of an erroneous study. So there are more whores out there than there are actual male abusers of women. I've met a lot of men in my life, and I have never met a man who has admitted to assaulting or has bragged about assaulting a woman in my entire life. People like that are hated even by reactionaries and conservatives. People like that are despised. It's a disgusting act. And people think that rapists are worthy of death, even on the right. So this is just more feminist histrionics from this woman. You can see some projection in this video where she talks about the person she's responding to sexualizing infants. I have no idea where that assertion even comes from. And you see the last sort of misconception this woman has in her head, which is about the sexual failure of men and women. Sexual failure looks different for men than it does for women. A sexually failed man is an incel, and women will shame you if you say something that they don't like and call you an incel. This has become a common insult online and sometimes even in real life among younger people. A sexually failed woman, however, is a whore. Is a woman who has slept with a ton of guys, is loyal to no one, is not qualified to be a wife, and cannot get a decent man to commit to her. No man with any kind of standards will want the town bike, will want to be with a woman that tons of other guys have ridden very hard. It is just, when a woman shares sex with other men, it makes it less private and less intimate when you have sex with her. There's an aspect of sex for men, which is conquest, sexual conquest. When people talk about notches in a man's belt, this is what they mean. And when a woman has shared it with a ton of guys, it's no longer really meaningful if a man sleeps with her, because she's anyone's dog for a bone. And the same is not the case with men. It's men and women are fundamentally different in that way, and this woman can't understand it because of her ridiculous egalitarian mindset. Anyway, let's continue.
Even if he did lay it down better, that just means that I personally need to step my game up. Yeah. So that I can, compete. I'm gonna be honest though, it was tight as fuck before. It could have used a little straightening.
So now he wants to compete with a corn star. That's like, okay, let's just like think about this. Now obviously this is like treachery, debauchery, craziness, but imagine if, that's like saying a pickup basketball player needs to compete with somebody in the NBA. You know what I mean? It's like, that's like saying, and this is just based off of, what they've been going. That's like saying a guy that's like 6 foot, it needs to compete with a guy that's 6'7". Like, it's like, what is he supposed to? He's a corn star. You know what I mean?
In case you're unaware or not familiar, that man was Adam22, a podcaster for Zoomers, who pimped out his wife to a known porn star and is now justifying his degeneracy and dereliction by saying he needs to step up his game because his wife enjoyed being with this other man more than she did being with him. Part of me wonders if in the very near future we will have mainstream media outlets commenting on the sexual frustration of whores, complaining about how their boyfriends just need to step up because he's just not as good as all the other guys she's been with up until that point. It's totally not that your girlfriend is a worn-out whore. It's just that you need to focus more on her pleasure and being more of a feminist in bed.
Raise the hands if you think the man needs to be more sexually experienced for the relationship to work. Raise the hands nice and high. Nice and high. I want to see what the thing is. Okay, so that's the majority. Now, just out of curiosity, who thinks the woman needs to be more sexually experienced for the relationship to work? Raise the hands. Nobody? That's why you need to f 50 bitches. People think I'm just over here. People think I'm just over here being a dickhead or being a misogynist, whatever. By their own answers, the average girl has a high body count. By their own accord, the man needs to be more sexually experienced. So it is what it is. I'm telling you guys to acclimate to the current sexual marketplace.
Right? But we care.
Can I just finish my sentence real fast?
We're wrapping up.
You need to acclimate to the current sexual marketplace, guys.
By the way, if that wasn't a drop the mic moment, I don't know what was.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a lot care about it, right? A lot of men don't care about women being good in bed at all. Men care about the status of fucking women. That's what it is.
Notice how she tries to turn it back around on him. Men only care about the status of banging women. Women only care about the status of men banging women. You know what that shows a woman? When a man is very sexually experienced, it shows her that other women have either given him the sacrifice of their virginity, or have allowed themselves the indignity of being another notch in his belt. You know, having sex with a guy and racking up a high body count, as they call it today, used to be a very serious thing. Women would shame each other over this, over having too many sexual partners. And this will still happen from time to time when women want to drag each other down, as so often happens. But the general feminist hive mind, sisterhood consciousness is against this practice. It'll still happen on occasion. And people will never be able to escape the fact that a man who many women perceive as highly attractive and immediately make themselves available to is a highly attractive man, objectively. Has been weighed and numbered and measured by the opposite sex as worthy of taking their virginity. And this used to be something that was very costly. A woman incurred a real social toll for every man that a woman slept with where the relationship didn't work out. You know, she wasn't just giving up the goods left and right. She gave up the goods before marriage, but it was still with the understanding that the relationship would blossom into a marriage, or that there would be some sort of committed partnership. You know, he wouldn't just leave her immediately, leave her high and dry and humiliated, feeling like she was just used as a human flesh toy for him to get off with. It's going to hurt some of you to hear this, but the old law expected men to be high performers to earn a virgin wife. Otherwise, he would just have a concubine. And that's what most American marriages are. They're not real marriages, they are in fact concubinages. And contrary to what traditional Christianity will teach you, concubinage is a legitimate relationship between man and woman, and you are not obligated to put a ring on some blasted out roast beef.
Veganism's going out of fashion. Meatless Farm announced their ending production. Beyond Meat shares crashed 95%. Most vegan companies in this country, lack of consumer demand now. I think people have got a bit fed up with it. I think one of the reasons is they're fed up with being shouted at. You're one of these people that runs into restaurants and plays, sounds from screaming animals and abattoirs and so on. I know you care passionately about it. I think it's very off-putting. It's a bit like the Just Stop Oil protesters doing a lot of their stuff. It just annoys people. It has the opposite effect to what you hope.
No, I don't think so at all. I think it brings more attention to the animal holocaust. Animals are subjected to rape, torture, enslavement, abuse, and murder, and I'm bringing light to that. And I'm seeing
Why would
more
you use the
people
word?
choose to
Okay,
be
why
vegan.
use the word Holocaust? Holocaust is the mass extermination of more than 6 million Jewish people by Adolf Hitler and the Nazis.
Well,
Why
that
would
is
you?
one Holocaust in history.
Why
But
would
if
you?
you
Why
look
would
at-
you evoke? People know that as the Holocaust. Why would you
Yeah.
use that kind of very emotive language, knowing it would offend a lot of people?
Well, it's just a factual statement. If you look at the definition of a Holocaust, it is slaughter or destruction on a mass scale. Multiple Holocausts have occurred throughout human history, and non-human animals can be subjected to the same atrocities that humans can. In fact, it's the largest Holocaust in history, with 3 trillion individuals brutally murdered every year for human food.
Absolutely delusional and impracticable. I was talking to a woman who had a similar mindset recently. She was also a vegan, and she said she would not eat anything with a nervous system because it could experience pain. And when you take this worldview seriously, there is just untold levels of harm that humanity has inflicted upon the world. And it's a truly misanthropic worldview, because what can a person conclude other than that humanity should have never existed, and that every human child that is born into the world is destined to be an abuser? This is what the coming mercantile and Jesuit technocracy wants people to believe. This anti-human mindset, this mindset that will be totally comfortable in a world without cars, confined to the little pod rooms, eating bugs, totally shut away, cut off from life. In the next 5 to 15 years, this may very well be the next battleground where leftists are talking about the animal holocaust and how all of humanity needs to repent of the awful sin of ever having existed and liked meat. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of the video, and now it is time for, you guessed it, answering a subscriber comment. Hooray, my favorite segment. Here we go. Austin-KT7KY says, I don't normally get to talk to people about these kinds of things, so let me know if I'm on the right track here. My perspective has always been that people should marry based on things like common values and social compatibility, interests, do they work as well as a team, are their morals aligned, etc. Beauty seems irrelevant to me because everybody grows old and ugly, everybody has the potential to suffer an injury that deforms their appearance, and our bodies, save for our health, are mostly unchangeable. It's simply how God created you. I once saw a photograph of a veteran with his wife, and his face was very ugly from his wounds he suffered. His face was totally red and had no nose. Austin, I think we all know what photo you're talking about. I always thought to myself how wretched it would be for someone to discredit his value as a brave and hardworking man and divorce him because of it, so I always lean on Proverbs 31:30. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Adding to that, I've heard some 6-foot-plus guys will refuse to date women who have, quote, must be at least 6 feet tall, end quote, in their dating profiles, regardless of her looks or status, because they despise her priorities. That being said, I understand the hierarchy of value between people as far as their contributions to the world goes. Currently, I am a high school custodian. You could say that my job is important in that it has more value than a barista, and because maintaining a clean environment at work is an everyday necessity. But if all custodians were to suddenly vanish from the face of the planet, the world would not necessarily collapse. The rest of the world would simply have to rise to the occasion. But an electrical technician or auto engineer, take them away and everything modern society has built would collapse. Considering that, my job is pretty low value and my contributions are negligible. I'd like to know what you have to say about this. One of the first verses that came to my mind in reading this comment was Matthew 23:26. First clean ye the inside of the cup, so that the outside may also become clean. In a woman, what I believe the scripture advises us to look for is someone who is nurturing, someone who brings you peace in your life, and a woman that will be a qualified mother to your children. And beauty, of course, is a nice plus. This scripture that I cited is not saying that outward appearances don't matter at all, but that the inward traits, the inward virtues a person has, take precedent. This is what a lot of modern Christians don't understand. They want to ascribe all importance to the inside without looking at the outside at all. And I think beauty is should be something that you do take into consideration when you're looking for a girl that you're potentially interested in. However, you should not let that blind you to her actual virtues, to what she actually brings to the table in terms of her character. The scripture understands that men can easily be seduced by the outward beauty of an attractive woman, which I believe that the verse you cited from Proverbs, that is the sentiment that that verse is expressing here. And let me put it this way. Would you rather be with an unattractive, faithful woman, or with an unfaithful woman who's very attractive? Another serious problem our society is dealing with today is its total disability to hold women to any kind of accountability. People in general are not being held accountable for their moral failings in things like divorce or selfishness or really greed, pride, not simply sexual failings, but also those other moral failings. Really, sexual sin is the result of a series of other moral failings. It's sort of the last outward sign and step of a society that has been on the decline and is struggling and losing its faith. I've already shown in other videos the continuity of the sexual ethic of the Old Testament and the sexual ethic of the New Testament. And you just want to be aware of this because there are a lot of people online these days who, a lot of young men who are basically taking their sexual failure and then recasting it as virtue, repackaging it as a sign of their piety and dedication to God. And I don't have anyone in mind in particular when I say this, but it's just something to keep in mind because it's really the sort of last man behavior that Nietzsche hated when he, wrote his diatribe against the Christian religion in Thus Spake Zarathustra. These people who, and he was basically identifying these people who would come in and then reappropriate the gospel message and make themselves appear like virtuous people when they were really just, and unfortunately there is this real contingent of men on the right who really latch on to social conservatism purely because they see it as a way of punishing women and not because they understand it as part of God's design for the world, because they understand it as being morally right. Their hearts are still stony. They do not have hearts of flesh, they have hearts of stone. And these men are low value, so in order to feel virtuous, they just say, well, I'm going to be celibate, even though their celibacy doesn't mean anything because no woman would want them. And I'm not saying every man who chooses to do this is one of those people. There are men out there who believe celibacy is the right choice for them, celibacy until marriage, because they are convinced that this is what God has shown them in His Word. Obviously, I don't agree that the Scripture has an equal sexual ethic for men and women, even in the New Testament. But if you're part of this second category of man who's intent on waiting until marriage to have sex with a woman, then I would warn you that the deal you're making with God is that you're actually going to hold out for the optimal helpmate. And this reminds me of this graphic novel artist from like the 50s or 60s named Robert Crumb. And he did like an autobiographical work, and in it he depicted this scene from his life where his father, who he didn't get along with at all, was like castigating him or making fun of him because he was getting married, and his father was like, oh yeah, I knew you would marry the first girl who came along and said yes to you. So if you've never had sex before or you're planning on being abstinent until marriage, do not have a scarcity mindset when you finally enter into a romantic relationship with a woman. Actually make sure she meets all the moral criteria that would make her qualified to be a wife. And there aren't a lot of ladies out there like that who actually meet those qualifications. I'm not telling you to go and get hitched to some blasted out roast beef. Or, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but let's say you find a girl and you feel like your options are limited, so you're telling yourself, well, you know, maybe she's not that physically attractive, but at least she's a moral person. And you sort of play up how virtuous she is in your mind just because you really want that physical relationship with a woman. One of the biggest mistakes modern men made was assuming that women would just give them their virginities altruistically, that a woman would just give her your virginity altruistically because she just loves your character and loves you as an individual. Most people are boring. Most people are not interesting, engaging, have vibrant inner lives, and are socially adept, upwardly mobile, engaging people outwardly. If you want to have a woman who has maintained her virtue like that, you have to be a high performer. And because Western nations are apostate, those standards are continually rising. So maybe you don't have the SMV for that now, and maybe you never will. That does not mean you have to utterly deny yourself. Because we know not only from simple observation, but the sexual ethic put forward in the Old Testament, we know that it is permissible for a man to do these things when he has no other options. You know, no virginity, then no ring, no dowry. I hope that answer was informative for you. Anyway, that's it for this video. And now for your moment of over-edited, overproduced Zoomer cringe. Catch you in the next one.
What's